Enterprise, commendations, Legion of Honor, Awards of Valor, decorated by Starfleet surgeons.
Hello and welcome. I am Anti-Derivative Jill. This is the first episode of Definite Lunch and Infinite Combinations. I am joined here today with Pop Culture Curator. Thank you for being here with me today.
Hello, everybody.
Today, I would like to read one of the poems that DeForest Kelley wrote, and he would read these at conventions. I learned from my friend here. And of course, as you know, he played Dr. Leonard McCoy on Star Trek, and I love all incarnations of real Star Trek from 1966 to 2005. But the original will always be my favorite, and I will always remember my first times discovering these adventures. Unfortunately, due to my age and not discovering this series in time, I was never able to attend any of these conventions to hear him read and answer questions. And I didn't even know until recently that he even wrote these. So I thought it would be fun to be able to share one of these poems and to share my thoughts as we walk through them. I had the idea to go over this poem from my friend here, Pop Culture Curator. He told me of how DeForest Kelley wrote The Big Bird's Dream, but what caught my eye was the second Star Trek poem he wrote called The Dream Goes On. The first couple of verses are what I like to believe maybe Seth MacFarlane was feeling when he decided to start the Orville. The rest, of course, concerns the creation of Star Trek movies, starting with the third one, because pretty much Star Trek was a huge part of his life. And before we get started today, I would like to welcome my friends in the chat who have joined me here. So far, I see Nina Green and Kapla to Bird of Prey 5. And hello to Deej Odyssey, Tiki of Doom, Kronos, Rod Thunderheart, and my friend RN Feliciano, who has a wonderful channel called Dolphin King. King Dolphin TV. King Dolphin TV is his channel. And hello and welcome to Sir Jacob. He does a lot of fun gaming streams. I'm glad you all are here. Thanks for being here. So, Pop Culture Curator, I was wondering if we could start today by telling us more about your time at the Star Trek convention and who you met, including DeForest Kelley.
Absolutely, I would love to. I served in the Air Force in the early 80s, starting around the time that Wrath of Khan came out. And that was when I started attending the conventions. So at that time, it was only the original cast that was attending the conventions and guest stars from the various episodes. And I was able to meet each of the original cast members, some of them more than once. I met DeForest Kelley twice. DeForest Kelley's a very, very nice, sweet man. I would describe him as a cowboy. If you saw him in a grocery store, he'd be the cowboy. He'd be the one with the cowboy boots, and he'd have the hat on. So you could see where his character really, you can see where DeForest Kelley really shines through to the character, where it would not have been the same without him. That's where, like that photo there, as we all know, he started out and he did a lot of westerns. A lot of times as the heavy or the bad guy. That looks like one of the shots there. And of course, he was in the famous movie Gunfight at the OK Corral. And he was really good at engaging the audience. He was very open. He was very open to questions. He wasn't standoffish. And people were able to come right up to him and shake his hand, and you were actually able to touch him. The reason why I emphasize that is with William Shatner, and if I remember right, I think Leonard Nimoy, I don't think we were able to actually approach them. You could hand a photograph to a person that would hand them the photograph, and they would sign it.
That's really lovely.
It was, but they had so many people trying to, and it wasn't their fault, because when William Shatner got up on the stage, all the girls and ladies wanted to get up and kiss him, and just, it was like a mob. So I can see why they had to draw a line.
What you say about DeForest Kelley resonates with what I've learned. He He didn't like a huge entourage with him all the time. He liked to go shopping on his own. He liked to. He stayed in the same house,
Yes, he did. He was
even
very.
when the fan mail came pouring in.
Yes, he did. Yeah, there was stories about that. He wasn't really used to it as an actor. He just thought, like the rest of them, he thought Star Trek was temporary. They never thought it was going to really catch on, and then they were overwhelmed. And one thing I really appreciated is I attended the conventions long enough to where I was able to meet the Next Generation cast. I think it was first through the first two seasons. I remember the last season I attended. The last year I attended to a Star Trek convention was the year they were bringing Gates McFadden back as Dr. Crusher. So whatever season that was the last convention I attended.
That's the third season.
Third season. Well, it's funny. The reason why I use that as a marker, how I remember, is I have a friend that we used to go together to all the conventions, several friends, and I remember when they announced that we're going to get rid of Gates McFadden and we're going to bring in a new doctor. And when they announced that it was Diana Muldaur, the audience cheered and everything because they remember her from the original series, and they acted all excited. And then I remember the following year they said, "Well, it didn't really work out so well with Diana Muldaur. We're going to bring back Gates McFadden," and the audience gave out the exact same cheer. And my friend and I started laughing, and he said, "Wow," he said, "well, they'll sure accept one or the other. Oh, pretty easy, won't they?" I said, "You could tell Star Trek fans anything, and they're going to cheer."
Right.
That's why
Yeah,
I
that's what
remember.
we're there for, because we're there to cheer for any new Star Trek. You're going to give us new adventures, and you're going to go explore. We're pretty happy.
That's right. And you know what? And I can understand the sentiment because when they announced Diana Muldaur, I was excited. Everybody was.
Right,
But then,
because she was in the original series.
right, and she was a seasoned actress, and she brought that with her. But then we all saw by watching that season with her in it, it was like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It just didn't quite work.
Well, part
She,
of the problem was they did try to make her a bit like McCoy, and no one can be McCoy, so it really wasn't her fault that didn't work.
I completely agree. It was the way the character was written. It seemed like it was just constantly debating everybody, and I didn't like the
Mhm.
episode. Was there an episode where she was racist against Data, if I remember right? Right.
Several times she behaved that way towards Data, and we didn't like to see that because Data was very dear to us.
Well,
And
they should, right, exactly like you were saying. They should not have written her like that. She should have been. Think about it. She had more experience than the rest of that crew. She should have been much more open to having an android than the rest of them.
yes, I think she could have been a very good doctor, because she turned out to have be a great doctor. It's just her attitude that they didn't get quite right.
I think what they should have done is add a little more motherly into her. If she'd have been a little more motherly to the crew, including Data, a little more
Yeah.
sympathetic, like almost like I understand why you're an android and why you'd like to have human feelings, and treat him almost like a son. It would have been a completely different character, and I think the audience would have engaged with her better.
I think you're right. And
But
I also want to say hello to some new people in the chat here. We have JP's Tabernac, Dalek 451. I'm glad to
nice,
see you here.
yeah, nice to see you.
And
You have a great turnout here, Jill. This is better than anything I've ever had on my channel.
yeah,
Wonderful chat.
yeah. D
You got a
Jodeci
lot.
says he's happy. He was here when I broke my live stream. Sure.
You got some celebrities in the chat. Bird of
I
Prey,
do. I do.
Gaflar
All my
brother.
friends. So before we start reading the poem, I'd like to mention that I found out some lovely details from a biography about Mr. Kelley called From Sawdust to Stardust. I
Absolutely.
was a bit disappointed that he didn't do an autobiography, which is what I was looking for, but this was the next best thing. And here I found he was born in the country, and um, so when he says he's a country doctor, he literally is. He's a country cowboy, of course. That's what he wanted to be. His his personality was described as sweet and charming, with a little bit of Tom Sawyer salt, which was fitting because as a kid, his first performance that he ever did um, was a painting scene from Tom Sawyer. And I like this description of his personality because it was echoed in his performance as Dr. McCoy and reflected in Leonard Nimoy's book called I Am Spock. And I say this because Mr. Nimoy described Dr. McCoy as a good hearted curmudgeon, which does remind you of the clever quips he gives Spock, though.
Absolutely, yes, it does. I know there's. Go ahead, continue.
No, that's okay. I want to hear what you had to say.
No, I was just going to say, I know some people, in hindsight now, I've heard people, even these days, I think they're not as familiar with the original series, but a lot of time people are saying that McCoy comes off as cold and arrogant and condescending, and I think they don't understand the character.
I completely agree with you. I don't see him as cold at all. He's warm and understanding and has a heart of gold. That I don't. The arrogance is they don't see that what he's doing is trying to heal, and sometimes that means getting down to business.
Yes, it does, and yet Kirk needed the sensibility versus the logic, and that's what it was. The trifecta is what made it. So you needed McCoy to be exactly like he was, but he was also fatherly, which helped a lot as well.
I think that's a better description of him instead of arrogant. He's fatherly. Very good. That's a better way to put it. Also, something else I found out was how expansive his acting credits were before Star Trek. He was the most seasoned one of the main cast, so that he, like you said earlier, he played the villain a lot in westerns, which were the type of work he looked for because when he was a kid, he always wanted to be a cowboy. And it was his being a villain that almost kept Paramount from allowing Gene to hire him as Dr. McCoy. But thank goodness he did because Gene fought for him and because he served, as you also said, as the heart to Spock's mind and Kirk as the human spirit. He made the trio complete.
That's exactly the truth, right? And not only that, but unlike a lot of other times, we've had other series in the past where they pulled one seasoned actor who has much more experience, much more past than the others. For example, the old TV series The Munsters. When they pulled in Yvonne De Carlo, she had an attitude at first because she was a cinema queen going back for years. She was in the Ten Commandments and all this. So the attitude at first when she first started on that show was, "Hey, I'm better than you." When she told the lady that played Marilyn, "Don't you ever cut in front of me or get in my lines," all this kind of stuff. DeForest Kelley was never like that. He was never like that. He immediately joined them like a family, and he never looked down to anybody. I always saw him, even as when I, not only on the TV show, his character, but when I saw him in the conventions. This is another thing, but I saw different, that I consider different than the other shows, is the cast on screen, the original cast on screen. To me, always seemed like a family. They seemed like somebody that would go out of their way to save another one on that ship. They would be willing to risk their lives. I can't say the same for the other series. I never saw that strong of a bond. But it's almost like you have a family there. It's like you almost have like a father in Captain Kirk, and you almost have a grandfather in Dr. McCoy, and you've got that smart uncle for advice who is Spock. I don't know, but that's just me. I grew up. I'm old enough to where I barely remember glimpses of the original series while it was broadcast because I was born in '64. But by the time '74 came around, when the animated series came out, I was already full blown Star Trek fan, huge fan. At that point, I'd already been watching it every day at 6 p.m. after school. So that's why, little off topic. That's why I don't think Star Trek needs to be written and targeted for kids. Star Trek needs to remain Star Trek because the original Star Trek was written for everyone, and kids could easily see and identify it with it.
I agree completely. Even the animated series itself was not specifically for children. It was for all Star Trek fans, just like the original series was.
That's right. And it's not an excuse to dumb down the script.
And they didn't.
Well, no, they didn't. They wrote it for everybody, and the kids. The reason why you can appreciate it and learn as a kid. For example, like I said, I watched the original series countless times growing up. I can now pop in an episode of the original series, and because of my age and experience, I will see so many things that I did not catch the first 10 times I saw that episode.
Yes, exactly. So you can watch Star Trek as a kid and just love it for what you see, and then as you grow older, like you said, you'll get more of the messages, more of the ideas, and more from it, just from having grown up a bit.
Right. It's like
So
it reminds me of like similar to the Twilight Zone. It's got so many stories to tell within each episode, depending on your experience and who you are.
yeah, the same thing happened to me there. I started watching The Twilight Zone when I was 6, and just it was more of a horror story for me because I didn't know exactly what I was watching, but as I grew older, I understood more of the ideas.
Exactly.
And like Tiki Doom says right here, strong writing holds up.
Well, it does.
Eh,
Back then, they actually used to get professional published writers. It wasn't just somebody hires somebody's sister and let's get a table of 12 writers together and throw together some ideas. I don't think we'll ever see those days again.
Yeah, well, I do believe there's some value in a writing room, but it is important for them to have some sort of literary background, and I definitely agree that that is missing today in many script writing
Yes,
circles.
yes, and literary background in the genre they're writing for. Right. So
Correct.
you want someone to come in and say, "Well, I've written some war books or something like that," and so they want to write for something that's completely opposite. So if somebody came in and said, we're like, for example, if we're making a Star Trek series, somebody comes in and says, "Well, I'm about to write for your series," the first thing I would say is, "Well, do you have a background in sci-fi? Sci-fi, fantasy, something like that?" And they say, "No, but I've made books on stitching." I'd say, "Well, maybe not." You know.
Hmm. Well, I would like to start with the first stanza of the poem. Oh, right. Let me do this here.
Perfect.
Oh, look at that. Okay, so just an old-fashioned Star Trek like we used to make. No big thing, just a piece of cake. But the studio said, we want more. Let's go all out. Let's make it roar. So they made it their way, and it was a great big flop. And the whole damn thing came to a stop. Then one day, the studio said, maybe this thing isn't quite dead. The people in the cast said we were wrong from the start. The story should have been straight from the heart, the way the old series used to be. Something for you, something for me. Someone suggested they get Harv Bennett. Rich man, poor man, fix it in a minute. But it didn't turn out quite that way. Mr. Bennett would have his day. He screened the shows and talked with the cast, tried to find out what made it last. He attended conventions and answered fan mail. In other words, he busted his tail. So there's the first page of the poem, which references, I think it's referencing the Phase 2 series or maybe even the first movie. Um,
It's referencing when Harv Bennett was brought in to do Wrath of Khan to save the franchise.
oh, yes, I'm saying the part where it said that it flopped. So that was
Oh,
before
yes,
Harv Bennett.
correct. He's talking about the phase two, I believe.
Yeah, I love how DeForest Kelley pays so much attention to Harv Bennett's efforts to make a good film by closely examining and researching how and why the original series is so beloved before writing for the Star Trek movies.
Yes, that is one thing that all of the cast of the original, pretty much they were all in agreement with, was how happy they were to have Harv Bennett on board because they were all very respectful and they all had nice things to say about Robert Wise, the first director of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. But they all agreed that they also knew that it wasn't really telling the story of their characters. They weren't seeing their characters as they should be.
Yes, the camaraderie was lacking a little bit in the first one, wasn't it? There was one scene that was pretty good for that much, but it didn't. gel together that much.
Right. Well, the scene in the motion picture where Spock was explaining to Kirk that he understood the feeling, and they held hands for a second. That's the closest thing we saw to the original cast.
Yes, and I think that that's why the director's cut is such a much better version of the movie than what people got in the theaters.
It is, and McCoy seemed distant in that movie, and he didn't seem as warm and close to the three. It just seemed like it was the two, not the three. But I think with Star Trek two, that was the advantage of bringing Bennett on board, is he brought all that back, and we had our our real true family again, and
Yes,
they understood that as well.
that's what Harv brought. That's why I think Mr. Kelly included him so early in this poem to signify that important friendship and how easily he fit in with the Star Trek family. Um, could you imagine if anyone today took the time and effort to actually create new Star Trek with that kind of love, care, and professionalism? Again, from the book I Am Spock, Nimoy talks about how he receives a call from Harv just to find out what Star Trek was all about and to understand what came before. In fact, it's an understatement to say Harv cared, because also in that book, it says that he watched all 79 episodes and created a top 10 list. So it's just refreshing to hear that from a creator.
It is, because I've actually heard that it's quite the opposite these days. Cardinal Sin had on a Hollywood writer, a current Hollywood writer, Mark Scott Zicree. He wrote a book, The Twilight Zone Companion, but he's also written for television, including a few other shows. But he was brought back in because they were thinking about bringing. He wrote, that's it, Sliders. He worked on Sliders.
Yes.
He was brought in. I'm not sure which season he was talking about, but he was brought in as a writer. And he asked them. He was not himself familiar with the show at the point. At the point he was hired, which right there showed you something was wrong. But he was, even though he's a good man, but they should have been looking for someone who knew the series. But he explained to them, "Thank you for hiring me. I'm not really familiar with Sliders. Is it okay if I get some tapes, go home and watch a few episodes, and I'll be ready to write?" And they said, "No, we don't have time for that. Here's the basic plot. It's 5 people jumping through time. There, now write." And
Oh,
that's unfortunately how Hollywood is now.
well, yeah, it sounds like Mark Zerkri. I really admire that guy. It sounds like he wanted to do his homework, but
He did.
wouldn't allow it.
That's exactly right. He wanted to, and he felt really bad. He said to himself he didn't want to give disservice to the fans of the show.
Yeah,
That's
I
sad.
appreciate that. I appreciate hearing that from him, because a lot of people were disappointed in the later seasons of Sliders, and it's good to know that he actually had good intentions, and of course he did. He's a nerd just like us. He's a fan just like us, and I really do like that guy.
Yes, he's very knowledgeable, and it just shows that it's sad that it's somebody on a show with that kind of production budget, somebody that low on the totem pole is the only one that cares. And
Right.
it should be the
Yeah.
other way around. The heart and the meaning and everything should start from the top and work its way down.
Yeah. If only he were a producer.
A producer, right? But Hollywood
Anyway.
is it's like a factory. It's like you walk into a factory, you're a new hire, and you can easily see how they're doing everything wrong. And you say, "Wait a minute, I could save you guys a lot of money and effort right now. I see what you guys are doing wrong." And they say, "Shut up and just do your job." It's like that type of atmosphere, and it doesn't seem very warming or inviting.
Yeah. I feel like that's what happened in Star Trek's third season.
That is when they brought Fred Freeburger in, right?
Fred Freiberger. I don't know.
Free, I think it's
Free.
pronounced Freeburger.
You're
There's a
probably
couple of
right, Freeberger, but I kept reading. I was only reading it, so I kept reading Fry.
because everybody's thinking fried burgers, which we should be calling him, but I'm not going to disrespect the man. He's passed.
Oh, right. Of course
I
not.
have.
I mean, yeah, he was just doing his job, but
Well, he
he
was
didn't
known.
understand Star Trek.
Well, he was like Bob Chapek, the new Bob Chapek, the guy who just took over Disney. He was brought in to save money because
Mhm.
at the time
Right.
Desilu was running out of money, and they said we need someone that can just chop chop chop.
And
So go ahead.
they really should have had Justman do it.
Yes, absolutely. But it showed in. I mean, there's definitely fortunate for us. There's some highlights in that third season. There were some good episodes. But we also got the episodes where they had, I mean, they literally had no set, like Spectre of the Gun and Miri, where it was just a black background. So that's where you could see where they were really running out of money, which was sad and very disrespectful. Oh, because you got to remember at the time, they didn't know what Star Trek was going to become. They just thought it was another series they were piping out for TV.
Well, yeah, that third season they were already. The only reason they even released it was because of the letter writing campaign by Bijo Trimble
That's
and
right.
all the fans. So they were kind
Yes.
of just beaten into starting it again. So they really didn't want to do it. So they put it. I heard they put it in the death slot.
Yes. Yes. Which, if I remember right, was like Friday nights.
Yeah, Friday nights
Possibly.
when their young fans would be out
Yes.
of the
Except for the
house.
nerds. The nerds always
Right.
were all at home, right?
Hmm.
Well, that's where they misjudged us.
Well, I want to go ahead and go to the next stanza here.
Sure.
He finally brought in Nicholas Meyer, writer, director, satisfier. Meyer through. Bennett grabbed hold of the show. Between them both, they made it go. During this movie, Spock wanted to die until he saw it was going to fly. Who would have thought this early defector would eventually return to be our director? But that's the way it turned out to be. My old nemesis directed number 3. I knew that he knew how it should be done. We talked about this on Star Trek 1. So when we started Star Trek 3, his expertise was a joy to see. It was obvious to everyone he knew his stuff. He made it look easy when it was rough. He took a firm hand with all the crew, making it clear what he wanted to do. He made no exception, even with Shatner, who sometimes questioned just what he was after. So, Nicholas Meyer helped write Star Trek 2, 4, and 6. And Leonard Nimoy said about Nick Meyer that he had a photographic memory, which is something that I wish I had. It would be really helpful with this. So, it would be fun. He could remember phrases and even whole passages from literature. Kelly says Nimoy was a defector, but of course, this is just him having a little bit of fun because Nimoy was only holding out on the Wrath of Khan because he wasn't so sure about it because he didn't have as much fun on the motion picture because they didn't have that camaraderie we were talking about before that he's so used to. And the Wrath of Khan did, though, when we got to that. So much he enjoyed it so much that he wanted to direct Star Trek 3.
Absolutely. So sorry to hear, Nina, you're not feeling well. I hope you get some rest.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Nina. I'm so sorry you have a headache. I hope that you can have a good nap and feel better soon, please.
Come back and join or rewatch this later on, Nina. I want you to see the whole thing after you feel better.
Oh,
Sorry.
and our talk about Fred Freiberger, or Freeburger rather. Fred Freeburger, I'll remember that. Because of that, Deej Odyssey now wants a burger to eat.
There we go. A burger, right? If I may
Leonard,
mention, there's
oh sure, go ahead.
I'll mention this really quick. There's an excellent video on YouTube that refers to the creation of Star Trek. A fascinating video. It's actually a audio novel, if I remember right. Inside Star Trek, Inside Star Trek, the real story from Herbert Solow and Robert Justman. And it's actually, if I remember right, it's Herbert Solow who's actually doing the audio read. And that is where it'll answer a lot of the questions and some kind of misconceptions about the show. and I recommend that for anybody and everybody. Like I said, it's written by the producers of the first 2 seasons, first 1 or 2 seasons,
Oh,
and they'll
well,
kind of
thank you very
explain.
much.
And if you don't mind, if I can put a link in the chat to that.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Yes,
Go
please
ahead.
put a link in the chat for that.
Go ahead and
Thank you.
continue. Go ahead and continue, Jill, and I will give me a second to look it up, and I'll put it in the chat.
Yes, and of course, it was only logical that um, that Leonard Nimoy direct, because he had so much of an intimate time. He knew Star Trek more intimately, more than the movie producers. And here, he had a wonderful opinion of Dr. Kelley, saying that he said that DeForest Kelley was a rock on which Star Trek stands. And it's wonderful that Nimoy felt that way, because DeForest was very proud of his friend directing the films. And I have a little video that I found explaining that.
It's very interesting. He's marvelous in both aspects of it. Leonard is wonderfully prepared. He was for the last film, and equally so on this film. It's interesting to me that you're working with a fellow performer who must now turn around and look at you as an actor, and who has spent so many years working with you, and he knows that you know what you want to do, and he certainly knows what he wants to do, but is also, I find, a wonderful opportunity, because we may all go through life saying, gee, I would have never done it that way. So it gives me an opportunity to have him give me some direction, and perhaps areas that I maybe never had thought about, you know. And in a number of instances, he has proved very beneficial to me in that respect. And I respect his judgment, and I respect him as an actor and an excellent director.
Terrific. Well spoken.
Yes, and I found that I knew I had to include that one, because you could really tell the friendship that they have.
I think, I really think that he was underrated. As we all know from Star Trek, the original series, at the beginning when it shows the opening credits, it says starring William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and DeForest Kelley. But he never got, as far as notoriety and pay scale, he was never close to William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, and I thought that was really sad. I think he deserved a lot more than what he got.
That was pretty odd. He did receive significantly less, but he loved what he was doing, though, and that's why he continued to do it anyway.
Absolutely. I have to mention, if I can, and it's funny, Tiki of Doom in the chat says his accent sounds stronger out of character, which is funny because that clip you just showed, it's funny because he was in McCoy's suit, but he was talking with his cowboy accent. So there you saw the cowboy McCoy.
Yeah. And so for the next part of the poem, it says, but when it was all said and done, they each respected the other one. Star Trek III was a big success, despite a few knocks from the press. We no longer care about a critic's review. We're making movies for me and you. Now here we come with Star Trek IV, because you said you wanted more. So here we go, once again. It could be the beginning or the end. We feel it's the best of all we've done. Of course, we don't count Star Trek I. Now that it's over and we've gone our way, what each will be doing, who's to say? I have an idea where we'll all be. I'll tell you and see if you agree. Walter will get rich selling toys, painting little models of girls and boys. Each and every one are little antiques, precious little things found in boutiques. So my favorite passage here in this one is when he says that he and the others aren't making Star Trek for the critics, but for us. Once upon a time, Hollywood actors and even writers and producers cared about making something the fans would love. Now everything seems hinged on Twitter desecrations of the population based on false dogmatism and accusations towards fans. And I don't understand why they've taken this route or why they feel like this is the most profitable way to go. But I eagerly await for the moment when that will pass and we get back to making wonderful stories like this.
Well, we can always hope. Don't give up, as I guess he would probably say, right?
Right.
It just seems like a lot of things now are written for that very small percentage of the Twitter crowd, and all they want to do is impress whoever's on Twitter.
And
Which is
the
sad.
thing is that they don't even watch the thing that they're fighting for.
Right.
They'll
They don't watch it. They don't buy the toys. They don't do anything. Right.
they're just there for the drama and
And a lot
the
of them are
buzz
10
and
years old. A lot of them are children. That's another problem is there's no age requirement on a lot of that.
right. Well, they say that there is, but you can say whatever age you want.
Right. Yes. But it's the old-fashioned writing and the old-fashioned characters and the old-fashioned acting is something that I don't know if we'll get all that again or not, but we can always hope for good writing again.
Right. Well, if we continue the poem, let's see here. I have a photo here of him young and during Rathacon. And the next stanza is here. Oh, I guess I missed that one, but I can still read it. But the old RV he bought on a whim meant more to Wendy and him. He'll probably replace that old Jaguar with the new RV, with the built-in bar. Nichelle, of course, will have her day, for she is blessed in every way. Acting, singing, personality, plus. We just feel lucky she's part of us. She's a beautiful lady and very dear, even with that thing stuck in her ear. Just remember we love you, Nichelle, and you will always ring our bell. And from what I found, Nichelle Nichols calls him her sassy gentleman friend. And one time, it didn't say what exactly happened, but a director wanted Nichelle Nichols to do something that she absolutely knew that Uhura would never do. And DeForest Kelley gave her the inspiration to fight for her character by telling her to stick to your freaking guns, Nichelle. And
that sounds
I'd
like
like,
him, yeah.
yeah, that's what he told her. And I'd like to say hello to some new people in the chat. I see hello to the Memes of Destruction. He's asking what's going on. I'm reading a poem by DeForest Kelley, and we're talking a little bit about Star Trek and his role. And hello to LDG of Geeks and Joy. He would love to see some good writing. Me too. Just good storytelling. Where is it? It's there. People can do it. It's not like we forgot how to do it. We're here. We don't even know what we're doing here on YouTube, but we know that good writing is out there, and we know what it is. It should be here. Anyway, hello to Snortopoopus Cuber. He says, hello, humans and other critters.
Hello, Carol, Cookies, Snortopoopus, Memes of Destruction, LDG, everybody.
Hello, Carol's Cookies.
I was thinking, I think what the problem is another thing where Hollywood has lost its direction is back in the day, they knew that if you go after the fan, the money will eventually come. But now they go after the money first and they don't care about the fans. They've discarded them, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, if they got the money, what do they need the fans for? They can just, where that money is coming from, I don't know, because they're not getting as many viewers as before by beating up the fans.
Right. Look at the comic book sales, the toy sales, merchandising. Everything's in the toilet.
I mean, I guess they've got to have some kind of purse strings that are stringing them along, because
That's
we're
what
sure not doing it anymore.
that's just it. Like, for example, Paramount Plus. We know it's not the profit that the show's bringing in. I think the only reason why they're doing that is because they just need to fill content for their channel.
Yeah, and that's what they get. That's what they get from this Secret Hideout. You know, they give them money to make content. They give them money to make content, and it's not any good. But they don't care that it's not any good. They just
Right.
want them producing stuff, and that they can do.
Yeah, exactly. Which is really sad. It's like they have just total disdain for fans now. When they don't realize is that the properties that they are managing are there because of us. Look at Star Trek. If it wasn't for the fans, they wouldn't have a job. I mean, think about it. They wouldn't even be doing what they're doing right now,
Right, they're standing on the shoulders of giants, and just
pissing down on everything below.
yes, thank you for
Sorry to
saying
say
what
it.
I
Sorry to say it that
what
way,
I
but that's what they're doing.
that's
Some
exactly what I was thinking.
Right. Some people will stay on the shoulders of the giants and try to take credit. Some people stay on the shoulder of giants and scream to the clouds and say they're better. But some people will stay on the shoulders of giants and just totally hate everything down below and think they know, that it's now theirs and it's not the fans anymore. And I think, I know we all know that it's wrong and we
Right,
realize
they
it.
think they have to fix it.
Yes.
Instead of trying to make something new and wonderful. But
And get
and
back to when you're writing your shows, not preaching and not talking down to people like they're dumb.
yeah,
Being Go ahead.
that's right. That's right. To be inspiring, like you're about to say.
Right. To be inspiring, right? To be inspiring and to assume everyone is smart. And make it easy to understand what's going on in the story, but assume that everyone is smart.
Right.
Assume that people have a basic knowledge of science.
Yes, I agree. And
But that's my opinion. Does anybody in the chat have any questions by chance? I don't want you guys to think we're ignoring you because we're not.
oh yeah, we're not.
We are
Yeah, for
glad you're here,
sure.
everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, look at sort of
And I agree with the what Storm Poopus Cuber is saying here. Just look at what these people are about to do with the legacy of J.R.R. Tolkien. You're
right.
absolutely correct. They're not following the legacy that they're trying to build upon.
Right, and if there's any fans out there of the author Roald Dahl, who wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, same thing. They just bought up the whole entire state, and they're going to do the same thing to his legacy, which is, I mean, they're doing it to everybody now. It's heartbreaking. The families, what's happening is the families are selling out. They're going back to them with more money, and they're told no, and then more money, and then more money, and then they're agreeing to it. That's what Charles M. Schultz's wife did. I remember when he passed away, she said that no more Charlie Brown. But next thing you know, a big enough truck showed up outside the door with money, and next we got a brand new 3D Charlie Brown special. So I guess money is the root of all happiness, right?
Yeah, right. Yes, that's how it goes. Yeah, so Christopher Tolkien was the one that cared, and he's no longer with us to protect what Tolkien's doing.
That's usually what happens in every way. That's like the old classic series Get Smart with Don Adams. He had a controlling stake in that show. He owned a lot of it, so he was under control of the show. So when they wanted to go back and make a remake, he told them no because the scripts were horrible. As soon as he died, we got that remake with Steve Carell, and that's another franchise destroyed. So they always wait until the only holdout dies. And sad to say, I'm afraid that may happen with Back to the Future because we know the producer Bob Gale and the director Robert Zemeckis both say, no, 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 no more, no sequels, no reboots.
They don't want any sequels. Is there anything they can do to stop it?
Well,
I
that's
don't
just
know.
it. Once they die,
I mean,
how much
can't
money are they
they?
going to be able to offer to their families? So if somebody bends the knee and sells it, all we can do is hope that doesn't happen. Unless there's a physical contract that cannot be broken, where that somebody signs says this absolutely cannot happen, even if and after they're dead.
Yeah, there
I don't know if that's going
maybe
to
there's a
happen.
way. I don't know either. But that's why I'm doing this live stream, because I want to remember, the good stuff, because
The
we
good
still have
stuff.
that good stuff.
We do.
We still.
Physical media, everybody, don't trust streaming because one day you're not going to own it anymore.
Yeah, streaming is so convenient and it's good to have it, but still also have your DVDs as backup for sure.
Absolutely. It's not only the fact that things are not available, but starting with subtle things to big gaping holes. They're starting to edit and change some of our past. So the day's going to come
That's
where
right.
you're going to watch a TV show or movie and it's going to be completely different than what you remember as a child.
Yes, and as they get better and better with that kind of technology, they're going to be able to make it seem seamless.
Yes, yes. A
But
good
I
example is when Disney put the Splash movie on their channel. Remember when they covered up? That's one thing a lot of people pointed out where they covered up Daryl Hannah's butt scene.
Right. Yes, I
But
remember the controversy behind that.
right, that's just one example. Of course, they're using it under the guise, well, it's for our own good and all this. But we'll see what we see more of that in the future. What happens with it?
Yes, and I'd like to move on to our next stanza here.
Absolutely, please do.
George still had that crazy laugh that cost him his job on the mayor's staff. But he doesn't care. He has more time to run, go to conventions, and have lots of fun. We don't have to worry about his fate. He's got it made in real estate. I'm just glad he's still around. I'd miss his laugh with its crazy sound. Now, what about Kelly? Now, what's with his life? He's still in the valley with the very same wife. Nothing seems to bother him, not even that line, "He's dead, Jim." Bill may direct Star Trek V. That is, of course, if we're all still alive. He seems to think we need a new cast, one that's young and one that will last. He doesn't think we can jump or run, ride a horse, or handle a gun. He loves adventure, don't you know? So guess the plot of his next show. So I love that he puts his marriage in this poem, because in that biography on him, another thing he states is that he considers his marriage part of his success in life, which goes back to prove even more how sweet he is to elevate his domestic life to his professional one. Even further, almost every morning before work, he would leave a drawing and a love note for his wife, Carolyn. Lots of times while reading the biography, I just melt reading about him and his wife, who did a wonderful job caring for our doctor and also caring for animals. She did animal rescue work. And he said, "I make a living and she makes living worthwhile." Although they didn't have any children, I read in this biography that posits that his fans are his children because of the influence he had on so many of their futures. And he was always very proud when any of them told him they went into science or medicine because of him. Further, at many conventions, he would tell fans, "I was just going to tell you how much I love you all." And he also said, "You can win awards and that sort of thing, but to influence the youth of this country is an award that is not handed out by the industry." He said that he would get mail from such fans who had gone into medicine, and he'd mail them back with a photo signed to the real McCoy.
What a great man. And you're right, they were married for many years. That's something you don't see very much these days. A
Yeah,
true
especially in
romance.
Hollywood.
Right, especially in Hollywood, a true romance.
And I think that it is asked of me in the chat to make this special announcement that Dolly had braces.
Congratulations, Dolly.
And as Raquel Briggs would say, she had railroad tracks.
Watch your gum.
And I think in this poem, when he said he's dead, Jim, I had wanted to show this clip.
He's dead. He's dead, Jim. She's dead, Jim. He's dead. She's dead.
It's dead.
She's dead. He's dead.
Oh, that's so endearing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember at the conventions that they sold a shirt that had that on the front. In fact, the biggest sellers was "He's Dead, Jim" and "I Grok Spock." I never figured out what the Grok Spock meant, but hey, you know, I'm sure they liked it. But that is really nice. You know, it just shows his experience. You can tell that with his acting, there was no question that, I mean, he can go from a good guy to a bad guy to a fatherly figure in one scene, and I think that's outstanding. That's something we don't see anymore. The range that he had it was great.
Yeah, I agree completely. It was wonderful. He was a fantastic actor. And in this stanza, I also put, as for George Takei, I didn't find anything specific between them in the limited time I had to research, but I did take a photo op with him on the replica of the bridge of the Enterprise at the Star Trek Convention's 50th
Nice.
anniversary. Yeah, in Las Vegas.
Oh,
That was my first time at a Star Trek convention, and it was a big one.
I'm glad you were able to attend.
Yes. From what I remember, he was from George Takei was very warm and welcoming to myself, my husband, and my son, and so much so that I almost completely forgot I was there to take a picture with him because he was just so happy to talk to me that he just slowed everything down. It was more like he was inviting me to tea, rather than taking a picture, you know, and shuffle me away like it felt at every other photo op. And I loved that when he asked my 3-year-old who his favorite character on Star Trek was, and he said Spock. Yeah, only later did I realize that Takei, he really smiled at that. And I realized he was probably very happy with that answer because my son didn't say Kirk.
Well, yeah, you're right about that. That's probably was thinking anything but Kirk, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think, you know, that last part you were reading as well, when he was talking about he wants to try a younger cast. What he was talking about at the time, this was Star Trek V, when they saw how bad that turned out thanks to William Shatner. I will highlight that. William Shatner, it was all on his shoulders, the writing on up. When it was such a financial disappointment, they thought it killed the franchise, even though the franchise was strong after Star Trek 4.
Right.
So Harv Bennett, that's when he introduced the idea to the producers. Well, maybe how about if we have a younger cast, the same characters, but going through Starfleet, and we can start all over with younger people. Then there was struggle there because, I mean, that was, I could see Harv Bennett's reasoning because, you know, he's just trying to keep the franchise afloat. But then, you know, they had the other side saying, no, you know, we think there's still a little bit of life left in it. We'll tell you what, let's make one last movie with the original cast. They need to send off, at least a goodbye. And that's how we got Star Trek 6. So they decided, and then they decided, well, you know, instead of rehashing it or redoing it with a younger cast, they just replaced the movies with the Next Generation cast, pretty much. And then next thing you know, we did end up getting that actual idea with the Abrams universe was the younger cast, fresh out of Starfleet. In fact,
yeah, and that goes to show that what TNG did was better than what JJ did, because going their own on forging their own path and creating their own new characters, still set in the same universe, but something fresh and different was much better than trying to step all over the past.
Correct. And not only that, But for us fans, if they had done that instead of Star Trek 4, it would have been too soon. It would have been like dancing on someone's grave. So we were not at the time eager to see a replacement cast come up on screen. Of course, we never were,
Right.
but we didn't want to see it handled that way.
Well, yeah, DeForest Kelley felt the same way too at that time. I think I remember reading.
Absolutely, they did. Yes, they were the ones that fought to have Star Trek 6 made, and the studio said, "Okay, I'll tell you what. The only way we're going to make Star Trek 6 is if you bring in Nicholas Meyer because he's the one that helped 2 and 4."
Yeah. Well, this poem was written before Shatner went ahead and created Star Trek 5.
That's correct.
So, but
Before
the
5,
movie, yeah, this particular poem was. This
mm,
poem was written right after they made Star Trek 4, but before it was released. And but that movie is a lot easier for me to watch through Doomcock's theory that the entire movie, aside from the Yellowstone scenes, were Kirk's dreams. There's even a live stream out there where he and the Critical Drinker talk about it, where he outlines all his reasoning for it. Um, uh, like the outrageously impossible elevator shaft in the Enterprise that couldn't possibly exist. So it being a dream helps explain that.
oh, maybe a fever dream.
Right, a fever
But
dream.
right, but unless William Shatner concurs with it, then that's just a fan theory.
Right, it is just a fan theory, but I believe
Right.
it. I like it.
It's like saying, this broken back I have really hurts, but if I get drunk, it's not as bad. Right. So I can understand their sentiment that they're wanting to like the movie more, which is fine.
Right. About DeForest, Shatner once said, I remember being in the office at Star Trek with Dee and Bob Justman that first day. I recognized him from Raintree Country, and I was an admirer of his work. I had seen him in several things. I always loved the way he looked. I wanted to look like him, with his hair combed that way, and his lean build, and his unique way of talking.
It's funny you mentioned his lean build. I remember that the poor man was ravaged with colon cancer by the time he was making Star Trek 5 through Star Trek 6. And I remember seeing an interview with a costume designer on Star Trek 6, and she said the clothes were barely hanging off of his body. It was sad. He lost so much weight. I mean, the man was already skinny, but
Right, he
all the
was
chemo, right?
lean in a
Yeah,
healthy way during the original series, but yeah, when he got sick, that was very sad.
it
And
was. Yeah, I remember another interview with him where he had just had treatment right before the Yosemite scene, and he was in
mhm,
pain while filming that, and that's really sad. And you can kind of see his health, and just between Star Trek 5 and Star Trek 6, you can just see his face. He started to get more drawn, and he's losing weight. And so they try to kind of overcompensate with makeup, but he held through. And the fact that he was one of the highlights of Star Trek 6, I think, is excellent, and it's a testimony to the man and his strength. Because, like I said, he was really struggling with the pain at that point, and he gave us some of McCoy's best scenes in Star Trek 6,
absolutely.
which I think is fantastic, right? And that was, I don't know if any of you are aware or not, but there was another interview later on with William Shatner saying that was the only time him and DeForest Kelley finally bonded and became friends. At that point, they never really knew each other. William Shatner was always very distant from the rest of the cast. But it wasn't until they made Star Trek 6 where they spent that time together on the prison set that they bonded and finally became friends towards the end. And that's what William Shatner said. He
Incredible.
regretted it. Yeah, William Shatner said he wished he would have become a friend sooner.
Yes, I wish that too. Here next in the poem here, we have, Bill knows I'm kidding. I admire him very much. He gives Star Trek a very special touch. He's made Captain Kirk an international name. He's one of the reasons for Star Trek's fame. Leonard will have a whole new career, beginning with this, our 20th year, for he's a wonderful director and actor too, as Star Trek 4 will prove to you. Working with him has been a joy. We've each had fun with Spock and McCoy. And even though they've argued from beginning to end, I feel we've each gained a friend. Don't forget my devoted nurse. Now, she's a doctor, for better or worse. I hate to think she's there as a threat. But her husband's the big bird, don't forget. She knows, of course. I say this in jest. I really think she's one of the best. It's important, I say, don't you see? If I know what's good for me. And here in the chat, we have Rod Thunderheart saying hi to Snortapoopus. Cuber. No, I can't do it like Raquel, but
Hello, everybody. Hello, Snortapoopus. I didn't know Raquel had a special way of saying it.
oh, she does. Her way of saying it is legendary, and so I won't bother to really try to repeat it. Also, I might mess up my mic trying. So next, oh, go ahead.
And I was gonna say that the man is wonderful with words and very literate. And what you're looking at, is that his actual handwriting?
I don't think so.
You think it's a
I don't know. I think it's typed.
Typed.
Maybe it's his handwriting. If that's his handwriting, then it's really beautiful. But I don't think so.
Immaculate, yes.
Yeah.
But okay, go ahead and continue. Sorry.
I didn't learn much about his handwriting in my research, but
there he is. Wow, what terrible makeup. Looking back now, oh my God.
I know, right? Yeah, no, I wanted to bring that one up because he does talk about it at conventions. He loves to say, how he was 138.
The makeup was better in the Deadly years. I like that one better.
Right. And they do get their makeup better in TNG, but at this point in the first season, they didn't do so great. but it was still a lovely scene to have.
Oh, it was. It was. And the line where he said, "The Enterprise will always bring you home." That was very good. That's a very endearing line.
If you treat her like a lady.
Absolutely right. Which they did not. Another thing. Another reason why I don't like The Next Generation. Did they? No, they crashed it. What, 3 times?
No, those were the well.
Right. It was the Next Generation.
The movies.
I didn't see. I know they had. I'm not going to knock it, but I know they had Geordi LaForge, and a lot of people like Geordi LaForge, but he did not love that ship like Scotty did. There's no way.
Well, Geordi ran it more as a team. It was more of a team effort for him. He ran it in conjunction with his engineering crew and with Data.
That's how all the Next Generation was. Nobody could do anything on their own. Look at Picard; he couldn't do anything without having therapy first.
And I'm not gonna therapy.
Oh, sorry, no offense to Next Generation. Yeah, let's not go there.
I do love Next Generation. It has its ups and downs, as we're finding out. If you want to go through each and every episode of the Next Generation, where Saturday Night Star Trek on Clobber Times channel goes through every episode, and you can look back on the first 4 seasons that we've covered, and currently we're on the 5th season, and we're going all the way through all the real Star Trek episodes with Clobby and First Officer Raquel all the way up to 2005. And,
nice. I will check that out.
And it's really a lot of fun if you have time on Saturday nights. Saturday at 9 p.m. Central.
Yes. And remember, Scotty had a team of engineers as well. Maybe they just didn't get as much screen time as Geordi's. Possibly.
Right. Yeah, he did have a team as well, but he was in command of his engineering station. He had a hand on it.
Right. He was front and center all the time, pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
But I don't know. I just found it very believable. I mean, I feel like a fool now, as an adult. But as a little kid, I thought, well, he'd be the best mechanic ever. If I ever have a car, I want Scotty with me. And then I remember him at a convention talking about, He had a Winnebago, some sort of portable he had a motor home that him and his wife and family were using to travel through the U.S. And he broke down and he was asking for help, and people were stopping and they were honking. They couldn't believe this. Thought he was asking for help to fix his Winnebago. They all had the kind of faces where they were recognized a mile away. Anytime people saw them, they immediately know who they were.
Well, I'm sure the Star Trek convention, you had a mechanic there, and he got his help that he needed.
Well, at the
No
convention,
problem.
right? But
Yeah.
right, but this was a time when James Doohan was traveling with his family on the road, and he had
Oh, he was alone. Yeah, no, I
with
was
his
going to
family.
say, if anybody on the Star Trek cast got in trouble during the convention, they would have no problem.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, don't worry, you got 50 doctors in the audience. You having a heart attack, right? Well, you got a science question. Don't worry, there's
You-
100 scientists in the audience.
Yeah, like Mr. Kelley says, there's the real McCoy here.
That's right. But I
And
remember James Doohan. I'll make this fast. Is that when he
sure,
was
no,
driving
you don't have to make it fast.
he said he would be driving along in his Winnebago just through the countryside to the different states, and people would pass and start honking because they would recognize him just from driving in his Winnebago. So it just shows the love out there, right?
Yeah, that was, yeah, right. And people would, and I don't know how DeForest Kelley felt walking around hearing people say bones.
I don't think it ever bothered him. During the 70s, they sort of, as we all know, they didn't know that Star Trek was going to come back. So they were trying to get past it, and they were trying to get other roles. And, he did like Night of the Lepus and a few other things.
Mhm.
So at the time, they were, sort of regretting it, thinking, oh, am I stereotyped? Am I typecast? Am I ever going to get hired again? But once the movies came back and the fans kicked in and the conventions kicked in, they realized that they knew they had a future. And they never looked back. I'll put it that way. They never looked back, and they appreciated every bit of it.
Yes, they did. And I like how Snora Poopus Cuber says that Scotty was gracious enough to let Kirk think that he was running the ship.
That's right.
Because, Kirk was in love with the Enterprise, but so was Scotty.
That's another point, too, is we always felt that love affair between Kirk and the ship as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know if I feel that bond between, well, I'm not going to compare, but I'm just going to say out of all the Star Trek I've ever seen, I think that's the tightest bond I've ever seen between captain and ship.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. And continuing the poem, we say, what can I say about my old friend Gene, the man responsible for the Star Trek scene? Roddenberry's done what few men can do. He's created history for me and you. He's fought through the years to keep Star Trek alive, and with help from the fans, watched it survive. A standing ovation is in order for him, for he wrote my line. He's dead, Jim. You, the fans, are the reason we're here to celebrate this, our 20th year. Star Trek lives, it will not die. You are someone. You are the someone who made it fly. And, well, that last one speaks for itself.
Sorry about that. I had to step away for a second. I hope I didn't miss something.
Oh, I read the last verse there.
Perfect.
Well, this last one speaks for itself. Gene and all the creators who helped really create an enduring mythology for all of us, and no amount of alternative universe shenanigans can ever take those years from us. Those 79 episodes and everything from then until 2005. For any faults we might find in the Star Trek that came after the original, at least it had the enduring spirit and the hope for the future, and the courage to ask where we will go and what we will accomplish when we get there. I thank DeForest Kelley for being part of that and for writing this lovely poem that reminds me of all the reasons Star Trek is important to us. I never knew that Mr. Kelley loved Star Trek as much as we did. He could see what we see, that Gene's universe inspires us to deal more kindly with others, and that humanity is here to do great things in the future. If only we can learn to stop bickering about the small stuff. Although, speaking of small stuff, I forgot to order lunch. So I'm going to have to do that here.
Well, is that time for you? Yes, it is. That is what you said there is exactly that one word is what's missing in my opinion. This is my opinion. Love. I think that's what's missing in Star Trek now. It just doesn't seem like there's love anymore. It just seems like a hollow shell with a wind-up key on the back. But I don't know.
If I begin to talk about what's happened to Star Trek, I don't know if we'll have much time left. It's been utterly desecrated.
It has, and we can go on about that forever, and it won't help. But we can just keep an outlook and hope things change for the next generations. I'm old, so I know I'm not around, but I know I have the classics to enjoy. I look at the original.
Exactly.
Right. I look at the original series cast. The way I look at it is like a family to me. They're a family. I was a kid. I used to go hang out at their house every night at 6:00, and they all treated me like one of them. But sadly to say, they've all passed away. Their house is still there. I can walk by and see the house, and there it is. But I know there's different people living inside, and I can understand that. So
right.
I hope eventually Star Trek will be in the hands of somebody who cares about it, who does have hope for the future, who does want to write straight to the hearts and the minds of the fans out there, and not to the bottom dollar, pretty much.
And I think that's possible. I think that reminds me of this clip that I had that talks about his poem a little bit. Where is that?
It's something like I was working on a poem some time ago, and I was writing about it, and I wrote a line that about Star Trek that I thought it was something that it seemed like would always be something just constant, such as the sea. And that's the way it's gone on. So you just think it will always be there, as it's kind of a funny feeling. I think that we're all waiting for a big surprise about how the emotions are going to be. Because for years we've always told each show was the last one, and I always believed it. And this one looks like it really is going to be the last one, so we're all in for, I'm sure, some big emotional bouts with this.
So, Dr. McCoy.
Very nice.
Yeah, right? He was an important part of that future, not only technologically, because today we get closer and closer to some of the technology that Star Trek invented.
Influenced, right.
Influenced, because every day we try to get a tricorder. We're still working on that, and
there's companies working on it. There's an actual, there's like $1 million prize for the first one that can invent it, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, yes,
that's
what it is. Star Trek inspires us to keep trying to be better.
Right.
And inspire, and I've also seen preliminary research on dermal regeneration. We're not there yet, but we're still trying. And I might even want to do a live stream just about that, because I could talk about science. I love pop culture, but I also like science too. So that could also be fun.
That would be fun, and that's what that's what's great about Star Trek, about both together, right?
Yes.
And it influenced both. It influenced a lot of scientists out there.
A lot of scientists, and for McCoy, a lot of doctors.
And for Scotty, a lot of engineers.
Yeah, McCoy was inspiring, not just for that technology, but also for a show of innovation in the face of what seemed impossible. So now this is the part where I'd like to talk about my favorite McCoy moments. For example, I wish I had time before this live stream to go through all the episodes looking for all my favorite moments. But here I'll just look in general at my favorite episode of Star Trek, which is Devil in the Dark. McCoy's biggest moment is when he's called in to heal the wounded Horta. And I also talked to my husband about McCoy, and his comments were that his big observation is how DeForest emotes with his expressive eyebrows. And, he's right. As soon as McCoy enters, we get a look of awe at the Horta and a little eyebrow lift. After examining it with his medical tricorder, he talks about how it's mostly stone, which leads to a variation on one of his most famous lines. I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer. But relaying this joke also gives him the idea to use the silicon concrete to make a bandage, which saves the Horta and gives us the wonderful ending that we get where the Horta gets to work with the miners in friendship instead of, death and destruction. Instead of giving up and saying there's nothing he can do, Dr. McCoy innovated.
Absolutely. Like he told Captain Kirk at the end of Star Trek 4, basically took something negative and turned it positive. And you stole my favorite scene from the series, but so I'll have to come up with another one. So my favorite McCoy scene. You know what's funny is I was thinking about that exact scene. That is my favorite McCoy scene from the original series. So for now, I will have to say my favorite McCoy moment was in my most unfavorite Star Trek show and or production, and I guess that was Star Trek 5, when he grieved over his dead father when he was trying to save the Klingon ambassador. I thought he did an excellent job, and then the grief when he saw the vision of his dad passing away. That was like the apex of his character, and I really, really enjoyed that scene. Even though the movie itself doesn't really hold up, I can always watch that scene over and over.
I agree completely. Wasn't it also true that DeForest Kelley named his Star Trek father after his real father? He named him.
Yes, he did. Yes, in fact, that he said that was motivation for that scene was he was remembering when his father was on his deathbed, and that's how he was able to perform it so well.
So his grief in that scene was very real.
Very real, yes, and it was very fresh. His dad had passed away just not too long before the movie. It was, I'm not sure how many years, but it wasn't long. And I'm old enough to remember too. It doesn't matter how many years since your parents have died. It could have been yesterday. And you're still going to feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand the grief if he wanted inspiration. That would it worked for him.
Well, that is a very great choice. I appreciate that one. Even when Star Trek wasn't at its best, it still had really amazing character moments.
It did, and he was, in the original series. I think it would have been nice if they would have let some of the other characters shine a little bit more in the stories, but he was given a little bit more out to go out there and shine, and I think that was really good. I think he was really good in Shore Leave. I thought he was funny in there.
Oh, right. Yes,
I was thinking
actually.
right, because Devil in the Dark was my favorite, so I'm thinking of number 2, number 3. So I'm thinking, I think Shore Leave, I think he really did well from what I remember. I really liked him.
Dear girl, I am a doctor. When I peek, it's in the line of duty.
Is that Dr. McCoy or is that DeForest Kelley speaking?
But you mentioned Shore Leave, so I had to play
Right.
that one right there. That was perfect. We didn't even plan that.
Perfect. Yeah. The other 2 shows that I would have mentioned for the best McCoy performances, obviously, especially the third one, would be City on the Edge of Forever.
Absolutely agree.
Those are my top 3 for DeForest Kelley.
That was a fantastic one because he had to step outside his normal range for that episode. He wasn't playing Dr. McCoy there. He was sick there. He was playing someone who's.
Well, it's like he went from Dr. McCoy to a screaming maniac,
yes,
to a person coming off drugs, going through rehab, back to Dr. McCoy, all in one episode.
Right, and he played that role really well.
Right, because go ahead. I was just going to say, I think that was part of the influence. Is if you remember, right, the reason why all that happened in that episode was because he was actually accidentally injected with a shot that was intended for a patient. The original story
Yes.
written by Harlan, right? The original story written by Harlan Ellison. One of the things which upset Harlan Ellison about later on was what the original treatment for City on the Edge of Forever had two crew members of the Enterprise doing a drug deal between them and selling drugs. And of course, Gene Roddenberry was against that. Thank goodness. In
Yes, of
hindsight,
course. Yeah.
right? We can all
No,
agree with
Gene
that.
wasn't for that.
No, he wasn't. But that's where the influence came, where Bones accidentally gets injected with a drug that causes him to go crazy. So that did work out better than what the original treatment was.
Yes, I agree with that move at least. And yes, McCoy. I like when he in the City on the Edge of Forever. He talks about. Well, he's not quite sure what's happened. He doesn't realize he's been thrown back in time, so he thinks he's in some kind of simulation or some kind of weird plot. And he talks about how, wow, I really want to see the hospital. And he says they must be sewing people up like garments.
Oh, right.
And
That's when the drugs were wearing off, and you could see even the makeup when you watch that episode. Even the makeup had his face had a certain tinge of, I believe, yellow or green, showing that the stages that he was going through of the drug. And then by the time it had worn off, then he became McCoy again. He looked like McCoy again.
mhm. And Snortapoopus Cuber in the chat says the scene in Shore Leave when McCoy shows up alive with two women, because I've asked if anybody in the chat wants to share their favorite McCoy moments, they may do so now because we're wrapping up almost pretty soon.
And I agree with Snortapoopus. That was an excellent scene. The smile on his face, and it's like not only did he get the girl, but he got two girls.
I like when the ensign was like, "Hey, I'm on shore leave too," you know.
That's right. But I could go on and on about how, and we saw some of the pilots, like the Menagerie and things like that, and we know that they tried a few different doctors before McCoy. And like you said, it was Gene Roddenberry that insisted to get DeForest Kelley in there because they had worked previously before. And I think that was another thing that, I mean, there's lightning in a bottle, but that was another really big thing, was getting DeForest Kelley there. I think that's what really helped make that show and made it a legend that it is.
Yes, it was very important. I also love in Space Seed when Khan wakes up and immediately grabs hold of McCoy's neck with the sharp blade, and McCoy's like, "Either choke me or cut my throat. Make up your mind."
Spoken like McCoy. He was never afraid. He was never afraid. He was not physically as strong as Kirk. He may not have been as logical or as science smart as Spock, but he had the heart, and he was never afraid. And he was very skillful. I never doubted his knowledge, except a little bit maybe in Spock's brain there at the end after the effect wore off. But other than that, I always thought that McCoy could cure anything. I mean, he's like the doctor we
Right.
always wish we had. If we had a family doctor, I wish it was Dr. McCoy, right?
Exactly. That reminds me of my favorite scene of McCoy in my favorite Star Trek movie, which is the fourth one, when he asks a lady what's wrong and he gives her these pills. And later, when he comes back, she's yelling happily about having grown a new kidney.
Right, kidney dialysis.
He's like,
I had
yeah.
right.
Go
I
ahead.
had a cousin that went through that, so I can understand how happy she was.
Right. And right. Yeah. If only we could all have Dr. McCoy. It'd be wonderful. The truth is that I started this show for reasons indicated in this poem. I believe that Gene's dream can go on, and it is going on today in Seth MacFarlane's The Orville. So my streams leading up to The Orville on June 2nd will feature reviews on season 1 and 2 to tide us over until season 3 starts in the summer. Pop culture curator, do you have anything coming up on your channel that you would like to share with us?
I've been doing some live streams off and on. I am currently right now purchasing equipment so I can do on the road live streams. I'll be doing reviews maybe and doing some traveling. I'll be doing live streaming from famous locations. I'll be heading down to LA here in a few weeks as soon as I get all my equipment. And I'll do live streaming from famous locations, including shooting locations from Star Trek and other things. And I'll, at the time, invite anybody who would like to join me. They will be welcome. And I'll even take suggestions from people if there's any location they would like me to visit and film. So I do have those coming up.
That sounds like some fantastic adventures. Sounds like you're going to need some good cameras, a GoPro or something like that.
That's exactly what I'm doing. Is I'm looking at 360 cameras. I want some 360-degree cameras, and I want, when I post the videos on YouTube, and when the viewers, as you go to view it, you can actually look around and pan around in 360 as I'm moving around. So I want a 360 video camera, not just a still camera.
All right. That's
I have
wonderful.
I have a super special location I'm excited about, but I'm keeping that one under wraps. It'll be like kind of like a surprise. I'll have a surprise live stream from that location. I'll put it that way.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that sounds really fun. I'm excited to see that. When do you know when you'll be doing these? Or do
I'm
you have
ordering
any plans?
yes, I'm ordering everything now. In fact, I've been shopping the last couple of days. I was hoping to have everything sooner, but I've been really busy with work lately. So it looks like it's going to be around the first of March. So about 2 weeks is when everything's going to start coming in. I can get everything together.
Oh, speaking of the 1st of March, I'd also like to shout out King Dolphin TV, my friend Raymond Feliciano's channel. We're going to be continuing our discussion on Deep Space Nine and the Dominion War, and it's going to be tons of fun. And I also like to say thank you to everyone who was here. I don't know if I wrote everyone down here, but thank you to Rod Thunderheart, D. Jodeci, RN Feliciano, Dalek 451, JP's, Tabernac, Sir Jacob, Kronos, Nina Green, who I hope is feeling better, and Kapla to Bird of Prey 5, and the lovely Sherry, Carol's Cookies, Aravic Sonder, and Tiki of Doom. And if I missed anyone, I'm sorry about that. And I wanted to say this one quote from DeForest Kelley about how he felt as an actor. I've always felt that the only recognition an actor needs is appreciation from an audience for a job well done and the knowledge that he has given the best performance he could. And he really did, didn't he?
Oh, definitely, without a doubt.
Yeah. And as a final treat, I knew, of course, I wanted to share. Oh, wait a minute. Before I do that.
Go ahead.
Oh, wait, what'd you say?
I was just going to say we have a last minute.
Oh, yes, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, son of a red
hello,
shirt.
Son of a red shirt. I was just wrapping up here.
Yeah, I've been looking for you, sir. I was just asking about you last night in the chats if anybody had seen you. I hope you're doing well.
Yes, I hope you are doing well. Yes, I did ask the chat about their favorite McCoy moment. So he says here, his favorite McCoy scene in TOS was Journey of to Babel. In the sick bay, he barks at Spock to be quiet, and then barks the same order louder at Kirk, breaking the fourth wall by saying, "Khan." Well, what do you know? Looks like I finally get in the last word.
Right.
One of my favorite lines in all of Star Trek.
It was. I'd forgotten. You're right. That that is one of my favorites.
I almost put that at the end of my live stream, but I didn't manage to do it. But I love that. So I'm very thankful that you came here to bring up that great quote.
Yes, thank you. Because you can always add that in post-production if you want to.
Yeah, it's true. I could. And thank you, Rod Thunderheart. It was wonderful for you to be part of my newest stream. He says it's wonderful to be part of my newest stream.
Oh, it is. It's exciting. You had a really good turnout today for it being the first time.
Yes, and I had a lot of fun, and we talked lot of Star Trek, and thank you so much for being so knowledgeable and so loving of this franchise that we hold so dear.
Oh, it is my pleasure anytime. I could talk about Star Trek until my dying day, which is hopefully is far away. But
Right.
thank
Well,
you. And if I can, I'd like to thank Jill. She's the beautiful, wonderful, very patient and smart host that I never thought I'd have. Just kidding. All of you guys out there are wonderful. And I wanted to say hello to you in the chat, everybody. It's very nice. I see a lot of you out there. We even have some celebrities. So it really means a lot to us, and especially I'm sure it does to Jill. So
yes, it
thank
means
you, everyone.
everything to me. Thank you so much for everybody who came and who, even if you just stopped by for a couple minutes and are going to listen to this later. And Rod Thunderheart is correct. There will be more to come. And this is my first stream, so I forgot all about doing stuff like this. Let me maybe I'll go through anything I can see here
Okay.
and show. Oh, since it is my first stream, I still have everybody's messages. So we can go through them just a little bit here since I
Nice.
still have a little bit of time. And so here I was thanking you. And Nina Green was here. And Bird of Prey 5 said hello. And Deej Odyssey, yes, they rated my channel earlier. And Tiki Doom said hail and kapla. And Cronus. And Rod Thunderheart congratulated me. And Cronus subbed. I don't even know how many subs I've gained from this yet. I don't know yet. I'll check later. Anyway, even if it's just one, I'm happy about it because I'm just here to talk. This is just more like a convention. I'm not here for the subs or the views, but if it happens, it'll be nice.
Well, if you're here for the fun, then it's working because I'm having a blast.
Yes, I'm here for the fun. I'm having fun too. Right, you're reminding people to like and subscribe. That's a very good thing that I did not do. And here, Cronus says that Nina Green rocks.
Hello, at Arian Feliciano.
And JP says hello. And Dalek451 says, hail, Jill, your very first live stream. Congrats. Welcome to the club. I'm very happy for you. Oh, that is so sweet, Dalek451. I'm so happy that you came.
Well, it looks like right now, Jill, you're sitting at 52 subscribers.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite a bit more than I had before. That's wonderful.
Right. Congratulations.
Thank you. And hello to Darius Munchausen. You're catching the end of my live stream here. And I'm so glad you could make it. I finished my main content and I'm just going through the chat now saying hi to everyone who yeah, it's a surprise. It's a surprise to you. It's a surprise to me. But it was a very good stream. I got to talk about DeForest Kelley and his life and what he means to me. And I always loved him before, but after having done the research, I'm just I'm just over the moon for him now, even more. I wish I could have met him. I feel like the love that that he shared with with his fans was something special, and
Oh,
it would
it
have been really
absolutely
cool.
was. You know what? And your research is perfect and top notch, and I think it'll open a lot of people's minds to the man, not just the character, but the actor and the man. So, excellent job. Well done on your research.
Thank you so much. I hope that people can catch the replay and learn a little more about DeForest Kelley. And D. Odyssey said, I'm happy to say I was here when Jill broke her live stream cherry. I did read that one earlier. There's your Rod Thunderheart. Oh, and Nina Green. Yes, I agree completely. I missed this comment earlier. How dare they kill Data? Oh, everything they did was just that was not. Yeah, Nemesis wasn't the best. And LDG of Geeks and Joy has a wonderful channel where he's live streaming all the time, and even when he's not live streaming, LDG of the past is live streaming old live streams, which gets a little bit confusing for some of his viewers.
The most common comment in his chats is this live?
Even when they know it's live, now it's become a joke to pick on him.
It is. Yep, that'll learn you, right? That'll teach you.
No, he'll never learn. He refuses to learn. But it's so great. I'm so glad you could be here, LTG. And Tiki of Doom says, I Am Spock is a great read. Yes, it is. I listened to the audiobook before this live stream, and it was really wonderful to hear from Leonard. And that would be a whole nother live stream in and of itself to talk about Spock, because Nimoy was Spock.
I was able to. My mother, rest her soul, used to drag me around when I was younger and I had no choice to yard sales. And I was bored. I didn't like looking at used clothing. So I would, if anytime they had books or anything like that, I'd go over there and start looking. And there, and lo and behold, they had I Am Not Spock, an original copy, 25 cents. That was one of the best and most luckiest finds I ever had.
I have read I Am Spock, but I have not read I Am Not Spock yet. I need to go back and read that, because I know that
I'm the opposite. I read I Am Not Spock. I have not read I Am Spock yet. So maybe one of these days we'll read the other book and then we can cover those, huh?
Yeah, that's a good idea. There was a lot of funny stuff and a lot of good stuff in that book. I almost clipped a part in that book where Nimoy comes up with a Abbott and Costello bit for McCoy and Spock, but you know what, that would be better on his live stream, because the relationship that he had with DeForest Kelley and Spock and McCoy was really something special that would be really amazing on
It is. It's a whole
Leonard
story
Nimoy
in
live
itself.
stream.
Yes,
Yeah, it is.
the whole topic. Yes.
And Rod Thunderheart says, McCoy needs to be that way. This was when we were talking about his personality. He needs to be that way because he's grounded. And Kronos had to go. I missed that he had to go. He needed to get some food. And Rod Thunderheart agrees with you, as do I, that fatherly is a good term for Dr. McCoy. And that's why, like you said, Pulaski would have been better if she were motherly.
Yeah, but she would have been embraced much easier.
And like we said, I love that friction between Spock and McCoy. TNG lacked that.
And they had that friction, but we all knew, even as a kid, I knew they loved and respected each other. I never saw them as disliking each other.
Yeah, I didn't see that either. And
Nope.
if they did, they hid it well. But if you watch the bloopers, you could see that they're having a good time.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
I should have pulled some of those. Those would have been funny to see.
Hey, maybe next show.
Yeah. Oh, look, lovely Sherry. I'd never really looked at your avatar there. That's a lovely drawing of the lovely Sherry.
It is.
And I didn't see Darius asking in the chat, is this live? And Rod Thunderheart says, it still is, Darius Robocop. Yeah, it still is. Because I'm going through the chat real quick. And yes, thumbs up for Harv Bennett. I never realized how awesome he was before my research. Now I love him just like I love Ronald D. Moore now.
Well, if you like
Okay.
Harv Bennett, I highly recommend the $6 Million Man and the Incredible Hulk TV series.
Noted. I've heard about those. I know. And I've seen lots of references to them, but I still haven't. So I'll check them out.
They're another testament to his excellent production values.
That might be a fun thing about me. I know very little, so it'll be a lot of fun for me to discover some of these things.
There's a whole world out there, yes.
Yes, and I hope by now Nina is having a nap and feeling better.
I hope Deej is enjoying that burger.
Yeah, right? I hope he's got a big, juicy burger with french fries and drink.
Or tater tot.
And Tiki Doom says McCoy has some great comedy moments in Star Trek 3.
Absolutely. It's his revenge for all those arguments he lost. I guess that'd be my favorite one.
Yeah. It's Spock's revenge.
Yes, I was thinking that earlier if that was one of my favorite scenes, but I was kind of
that's
sure.
a good one. That's a good
Yes,
one.
It is. That was such a good joke that harkens back over all the movies and all the TV series. It hit home. It was perfect.
And that was also another good display of DeForest Kelley's acting, because he had to play not only McCoy, now he also had to be a hybrid of Dr. McCoy and Spock put together.
Right.
And so some of his lines would be McCoy, and the next line would be logical.
Right.
It was great.
But even then, he took it tongue in cheek. He didn't act like he was resentful for it.
No, not at all. No, he took it in stride. And his accent sounds stronger out of character. And that reminds me of This Side of Paradise. I love when he really goes all out on that accent. Like he really lays it thick.
Absolutely. Small town country doctor, right?
And thank you, Memes of Destruction, for joining us. Yeah, him and his juniper drink. Oh, another thing I found from my research that I didn't include was that he also he balanced his life in Hollywood with just a home life, like I said earlier, but also he wrote some recipes too. There was one recipe in the book, in the biography, called D's Peas, and so he explains how he makes his peas. And I wondered if he had any other recipes, since he loved to just go home, do some chores, tend to his roses, and be with his wife.
Absolutely. And Rob Thunderhart says he's got the whole $6 Million Man series. Hail, Rob Thunderhart! I have that as well, as well as the Bionic Woman.
Yeah, the Bionic Woman. That sounds great. I don't know. Is that like the $6 Million Man series? How's that different from?
Well, what happens is in the $6 Million Man series, they had an episode where he had a girlfriend. She was a tennis player, and she was doing a skydiving, and she was in an accident where she lost an ear, both legs, and one arm. So they gave her the bionic implant similar to him. They killed her off at the end of the episode, but then it was at the end of a season, and they killed her off because of her bionic transplants were being rejected by her body. But there was a big fan backlash, and that last episode had really high ratings. Where when the following season came out, they brought her back, and they realized, hey, we can make more money off of two separate series than we do one. So it branched off into the Bionic Woman.
Oh, okay, so it was a spinoff.
But I can honestly say some of the Bionic Woman has some better action scenes, better than the $6 Million Man. It was a really good series that really holds up, and it's an example of a strong female character, and it wasn't woke. Far be it from that.
Yes, it's absolutely possible, and I'd love to see more of that.
I highly recommend it.
Yes, I'll check it out. Snortopoopas Cuber said earlier in the chat, McCoy looking at the body of the Pillsbury Doughboy. He's bread, Jim. That's so corny. I love it. Thank you, Snartopoopas. And he also has this important announcement. Remember, there are 3 fundamental truths of the universe. 1, Han shot first and last. 2, Wesley sucks. And 3, Dolly had braces. And about Star Trek V, Snortopoopus says, Kirk was having a nightmare brought on by a lethal combination of bourbon, beans, and marshmallows. Yes, that's my fan theory too. That I'm definitely down with that. I know it has to be true. And about TNG, the endless staff conferences. Yes, that's something that we're finding out about. And we're
therapy
talking about it.
sessions. Right.
Therapy sessions,
and the
staff
therapy
conferences.
sessions, right.
Right. Therapy and staff conferences. I love TNG, but yes, there are those things. And yes. And it was so great to have everybody here. Snortopoopus, and Feliciana, Tiki Doom. And I don't know what. Oh, Ervik Sonder is on his lunch break. And now I'm catching up to the end of the show. And also the appearance of Darius Munchausen to my first live stream. I am so glad. Darius is one of my favorite YouTubers. I've got. Oh, wait a minute. What? I have not made him a mod yet. He's mod material here.
Another celebrity in the chat.
Yes.
You're all celebrities.
Yes, everybody is celebrities to me. Everyone, because I appreciate everyone being here. And so now that I have Darius here, I feel a lot better. But I'm happy to have everyone here.
Darius is our good luck charm.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and after that, I ran out of chat there. It doesn't have the recent ones. Oh, here's the new ones. There. Yeah, there's his popcorn. Sort of poop is so funny. He bows to the new wrench. Anyway, I was meaning to wrap up the show, so I just wanted to say hi to everybody and thank everybody for being here. And as a final treat, I know, of course, that I wanted to share DeForest Kelley himself reading all these of the Star Trek poems, including The Big Bird's Dream. The dream goes on, and the dream goes on and on and on. But I could only find this clip, so we'll just have to be happy with what I found. Shout outs to all the YouTube channels from the clips that I shared. I have shout outs to them in the description below. So if you want to go down and check them out, they have lots of great stuff, lots more Star Trek stuff, and more.
Oh yes. Also, check out that link that I shared in the chat for the behind the scenes of the original Star Trek series by some of the original producers and writers. I think you'll find that fascinating if you get a chance.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Let me grab that. Where is that?
Hopefully it's still in the chat somewhere.
I'm sure it is. Because I don't have too much chat. That's a good thing about having such a small stream. I don't lose anything.
Well, that won't last. It won't be too long before you have a lot of people in there, I'm sure. And
Rod Thunderheart salutes, and Darius Munchausen is grappling with his unlimited power. Yes.
Remember, Darius, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Also, yes. And so I will, in the future, get better at also sharing the links to all of these wonderful channels. I guess here I'll do that just a little bit here is Darius's channel. And here's your channel. I'll grab yours too.
Wow, thank you very much.
And hello to Doc Valiant. Welcome. And I'm here wrapping up my live stream about DeForest Kelley. And I've been wrapping up for like 30 minutes now. Or probably an hour. I don't know.
I'm going to pin just temporarily till, well, I guess I can't do that, but I did post that link again there at the bottom, everybody, where you'll see my name and the link. That is the link to the interview of the audio.
Thank you very much for that
series. Yes, I highly recommend it. Yes, Bird of Prey, absolutely as well. Wonderful, man.
Yes. And Clobby, just because I love Clobby and because, oh, you switched microphones.
No, I have a lapel microphone and I had to set it down because I had to let my dog in. So I had to remember and I just picked it up. So I apologize if my voice faded away.
Oh, it did a little bit, but you still sounded okay. So I didn't worry about it. Sometimes when you worry about someone else's microphone, it ends up making it worse. So I didn't, if you're not roboting, I wasn't going to say anything.
Okay, thank you.
And also, DLIC 451 was here, so I'm going to share that one out.
And thank you, Rob, for subbing to my channel. I think that's what Rob said. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yes, and also King Dolphin TV, because I will be streaming there about Deep Space Nine. And also because he's my friend. And Son of a Red Shirt says, take care all. Can't stay awake another minute. Had a great time. I'm just not feeling my best. Again, congratulations, Jill. I'm sure this is the first of many successful episodes to follow. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
And thank you. And I hope you feel better. I hope your nap makes you feel great when you wake up.
If I may add also that link that I posted, sorry to go on about that link again, that link that I posted that has the behind the scenes of the original series. If any of you do get a chance to watch it, if you can come back to this channel and leave a comment under Jill's comment section on what you thought of it, and please share what your opinion is of it, because I hope everyone sees it. I think you'll appreciate Star Trek a lot more if that's possible.
I can always appreciate Star Trek more. I always want to learn new things, and I'm not the most knowledgeable Trekkie, especially not on YouTube. So
same here.
I don't learn something.
Right, me too. I don't want to claim to be the most knowledgeable either. I only speak from my own experience.
No. Exactly, and you have such great experiences. I love your stories from your conventions that you told us today, and I knew that they would be a great time. And that's why the last clip I'm going to show is from that convention.
Perfect.
It's from, well, maybe not the one you were at specifically, but it's similar. And so,
if you see me sitting at his feet, that's the one with me. That's how I can tell.
You could be in the audience. I don't know. All right. So
I'm excited.
So enjoy it. And I'll see you next time, guys. Enjoy and see y'all next time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
I wrote this poem called The Dream Ends. That was when they were going to drop us, after number 6. So everybody gave a big groan when I said that, and so I changed the title to it, to The Dream Goes On and On and On. So, Adam Malin had been hounding me to get this thing in print and I had been getting a lot of mail, people wanting copies of it. So finally, I got a copy off to him for the 25th anniversary, and Adam has done it up in true DeForest Kelley form. There are nothing but cowboy pictures in here. But anyhow, with your indulgence, I would like to read this, even though it's...
long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, I think some of you heard me say, Star Trek lives, it will not die, and you are the someone who made it fly. Well, the studio was in a kind of a fix. They wanted to do number 6, but after we did number 5, Paramount's faith took a dive. And then they thought of all the press they could get, and suddenly it became a very good bet. So they put out the word for the world to hear, Star Trek 6 for the 25th year. Now lots of changes are taking place. You turn around, there's a brand new face. It just goes to show you never know, they even let Mancuso go. And Harv Bennett, he left in a huff. He simply said he'd had enough. I give him credit, he stood his ground, and I miss knowing he's not around. He'd been with us since Star Trek II, and that alone was tough to do. He was always there to hear you out, no matter what it was all about. Another reason for liking him, he scrubbed that line, "He's dead, Jim." Well, it's good to know, just in case, we've got Ralph Winter in his place. A better man could not be found. And we thank our stars he's still around. And I've got some more good news. We've got Nick Meyer. How can we lose? It's good to have someone we know to see us through this final show. Star Trek 6 was made for you, and it's Paramount's way of saying adieu. Please accept it with deep appreciation from those of us in the Federation. We don't care about a critic's review. We only hope that it pleases you. They've critiqued our bellies, our wrinkles, and our hair. We just keep going. We don't care. I don't suppose they've ever been told that all of us are growing old. It seems to me the thing worth knowing is to simply try to keep on growing. But now it's time to check on the crew and to see what's old and what is new. Jimmy's bought a new RV. It's the fanciest one you'll ever see. It must have been built for a movie star. It looks like a traveling bar. He's going to move to Washington State and build a home for himself and his mate. It's on 5 acres, way out of town, and we'll miss knowing that he's around. He's sick of the traffic and the L.A. noise, and he wants to relax with Wendy and the boys. And Pocket decided, after taking a look, they'd republish Walter's book, but not before he agreed to relent and let them use that damn accent. And when George lost his job on the mayor's staff, I thought he'd lose that crazy laugh. But when he's back on the set, it's louder than before. He's blown 20 takes and maybe more. As most of you probably know, Nichelle now has a one-woman show. She's touring the nation in a variety of roles, touching people's hearts and lifting their souls. She's got talent, looks, and guts, and she's out there knocking them on their butts. We love Nichelle. She's very dear, even with that thing stuck in her ear. Oh, Bill, of course, is doing 9/11. He's a star, so he's in heaven. He always seems to be on the go. He even has his own horse show. He works all week, and he rides on Sunday, and he's back on the set the first thing Monday. It can't be money he's going after. It must be applause, joy, and laughter. And I hope he'll always be around, with both feet firmly on the ground. After all, it's because of him I have that line, "He's dead, Jim." You remember that alien with the pointed ears who gave me trouble for 25 years? Who wanted to die in Star Trek II and gave the impression that he was through? Remember? But boy, did he do a turnaround when he heard that old money sound. He not only decided he would not defect, but wanted to act and direct. He just went crazy, wanting more. He directed 3 and also 4. And now he's back as an actor-producer, a very, very important factor. For I never thought I'd see the day when Spock would control my movie pay. Even so, I'll never get rich because of that green-blooded son of a bitch. But I can't kick about my life. I'm happy in the valley with the very same wife. Not many of them can say that. Finally and foremost, there's my dear friend Gene, the man responsible for this whole wonderful scene. Isn't it strange how one person you know can change the way your life will go? He will always be a part of my life, even though my nurse became his wife. Now, all of this has been said in fun and not intended to hurt anyone. You are the reason we're all here, to celebrate this, our 25th year. I always thought Star Trek would just be something constant, such as the sea. But like all good things, this too must pass. So I'll see you often in the bottom of my glass. While we were doing Star Trek 6, they always have food out, for the actors and so forth. And Christopher Plummer was eating a English muffin one morning, and I walked by and I said, the fragrance was so good. And I said, what is that? It looks like an English muffin. He said, it is. It's the new ones. He said they have with the raisins and the cinnamon. God, it smelled good. So he said, there's only one left. He said, you better get it. So I went over and I got it, and I popped it in the toaster, and then they called me. I had to go on the set. And so I walked off, and when I came back, I noticed that Bill Shatner was at the other end of the table. Excuse me. Terrible guy with the food in the first place, but he was just over there eating something like that. And so the makeup man, who is Bill's makeup man, said, Dee, would you turn around a minute, the light over here? He said, I want to fix something in your makeup. So when I did that, and as I turned around, Bill was really stuffing himself with it. And I went over to get my English muffin, and that's where it was. And I looked at him, and I said, can I do something for you? He said, yeah, you can call 911. He was about to choke on this thing. So I said, Bill, I'll tell you. I said, I'll get even with you somewhere down the line. He said, why? He said, I was, he said, just having a little fun. I said, I'll get even. He said, when? I said, don't worry, it'll happen. So time goes by, and we go to the Shrine Auditorium. In the meantime, before we went to the Shrine Auditorium, that was a couple of weeks away or something, he went to Arizona for Adam Malin. This is a true story. And he'd been telling about this cookie thing that he thought it was real funny. So he came on the set and he said, hey, Dee, he said, I made an appearance in Arizona. And he said, I told him the cookie story. And he said, they just loved it. And I said, that's wonderful, Bill. I'm glad you're enjoying it. We got down to the shrine, and Leonard and Bill are sitting in the back. I went on first, and I was to introduce Bill. And so when I went out, I knew he was going to open with that cookie story. So I told the cookie story. Now, then I here's William Shatner. He came out like he could just kill me, And I went back off stage, and Leonard is sitting back there on a bench, and he's laughing and laughing. He said, Shatner is beside himself. He said he opened with, I was going to open with that, and he went out there and told it. He opened with it, and he was just beside himself. Now, in the meantime, he's out there, and these people that were there will tell you this is the truth. He is nailing me to the cross. He's talking about everything. He keeps telling them about how old I am and how forgetful I am. And I thought, well, a little bit of it was funny, but he went on and on and on. And I told Leonard, I said, Christ, he's making a concert out of this thing out there. I said, I'd give my soul if I had a hook. I'd go out and get him. Stage manager is a true story behind me. He said, Mr. Kelley, I have one. I said, go get it. He went after this thing, and he came in with a pole that, I'm not exaggerating, must have been at least 15 or 20 feet long. And it had like a gig on the end of it. So I had to be very careful, you know, if he turned around and ran into this thing, he would really be wounded. So I said to Leonard, I said, you come go with me. He said, not a chance in hell. So I went out after him with this pole, and everybody screamed, and Bill was telling a story, and he was walking way over here like this, you know, and he thought they were laughing at him, see? Then he suddenly turned around, and he saw me with this pole. And knowing Bill, I didn't know what to do, so I turned around and took my pole and ran back off stage. Bill turned around and said, look at him. He's so old, he forgot what he came out here for.
Look, I'm a doctor, not an escalator. Spock, give me a hand.
Damn it, Bill. You're an actor, not a singer.